There's a mammoth behind your friend. You can see it. He can't. And you have no word for mammoth, no word for run, no word for anything. So you point, you grunt, you slap your chest at the dark and bare your teeth, and he just stares back at you across the fire. Blank. That was every human alive. For almost all of human history, nobody could speak, not one word. Now look at us. The same animal that argues with strangers about football at 2 in the morning. That says I'm fine through clenched teeth while very much not being fine. That animal back then could not even say watch out. So how did they warn each other about anything at all? We will probably never dig up the answer. You can dig up a bone, a spear, a painting. You cannot dig up a sentence. Sound leaves nothing behind. A conversation from 100,000 years ago vanished the instant it ended. So the people who chased this are detectives working a case with no words in it. They read the bones, they read what the hands were doing, and the trail starts somewhere you would never guess. Not with the mouth at all. Point at something across the room, right now. Anyone watching looks where you point. Not at your finger, at the thing. Feels like nothing. It is not nothing. It might be the most human thing you do all day. A chimp in the wild almost never points. It will beg, it will grab, it will drag your arm toward the food. But that clean little gesture, look, over there. At that, they basically do not have it. A human baby has it before its first birthday, before a single word. The finger goes up and the whole room turns. And think about what that quietly demands. To point and to follow a point, you both have to believe the same thing, that there is something inside the other head worth turning around for. That is not a noise. That is you guessing at another mind and getting it right. And that guess, not the grunt, is where all of this begins. Only problem. A pointed finger makes no sound. And half your ancestors' lives happened after dark. So the hands went first. The voice came stumbling after, late to its own party. And you can still catch the two of them tangled together. Watch anyone take a phone call and start pacing. The free hand goes wild, chopping the air, drawing shapes, pointing hard at a person who is not even in the room. That is not a quirk. That is old wiring showing through. The patch of brain that runs your talking sits right on top of the patch that runs your hands. They grew up in the same room. They never fully moved out. There is even a theory that speech began as the mouth copying the hands. Your fingers made a shape. Your lips tried to make it out of sound. It has a real name. The ta-ta theory. I did not make that up. Serious linguists named it that and then, presumably, went for lunch. But the hand-to-mouth link is rock solid. The gesture led. The sound chased. Which leaves one problem. To make those sounds at all, something inside the throat had to move. And that small change nearly kills us. In most animals, the voice box sits high in the throat. Smart design. It lets a chimp breathe and swallow almost at the same moment. Gulp food, pull in air, never think about it. In us, that voice box dropped. It slid down the throat and opened a bigger chamber above it. That empty space is where your vowels live. Ah, e, oh. The whole range of human sound comes out of that gap. We got speech, we also got the bill. Now the food tube and the air tube cross at the same junction, and sometimes the food takes the wrong door. We are the only animal on Earth that regularly chokes to death on dinner. Every year, people die on a steak, on a badly chewed sandwich, on a single grape. Evolution looked at that trade and shrugged. Talking, apparently, was worth dying over. A chimp watching us eat would think we had lost our mind. This is the part I keep getting stuck on. The ancestors who could suddenly make more sounds were the same ones who could suddenly choke on lunch. And we kept the sounds anyway. But a sound is still not a word. A grunt is not a name. So how does a plain noise turn into meaning? Here the scientists split into two camps, and they have been fighting for decades. Camp 1 says language crept in slowly, grunt by grunt, over hundreds of thousands of years. Camp 2 says no, it exploded. Somewhere between 50 and 100,000 years ago, something clicked in the brain. And suddenly humans could stack ideas inside ideas. The man who saw the woman who found the child. Sentences nested in sentences out of almost nothing. One camp says language grew, the other says it erupted. Nobody can prove which, so back up. What even is a word? A dog growls and the growl is the threat itself. No gap. The sound is the thing. A word is different. A word is a trick we all agree to fall for. The sound danger does not look dangerous or feel dangerous. It is just air we decided would mean something. So what was the first air we all agreed on? Nobody knows. But the theories have gloriously stupid names. First, the bow wow theory. The first words were copies of the world. The crash of a rock, the buzz of a fly, the hiss of a snake. You name a thing after the noise it makes. Partly true, but you cannot bow wow your way to the word justice or bureaucracy. Then, the poo-poo theory. Yes, that is the actual name. Language born from blurts, The ow when you stub your toe, the groan, the laugh, and the yo-he-ho theory. Words born from work, people hauling a log together, grunting on the beat, a ring of bodies around a fire, thumping out a tune with no words in it yet. Which would mean we sang to each other long before we ever spoke. Bow wow, poo poo, yo-he-ho. Real theories, real linguists, probably tenure, but every one of them skips the biggest question of all. Why bother talking in the first place? The answer. We ran out of hands. Watch how chimps hold a group together. They groom. Hours a day, sitting close, fingers combing through fur, picking out bugs, one friend at a time. It is warm, it is real, and it does not scale. You can only groom one back at a time, and the day is only so long, fine for a tiny band. Useless the moment the group grows. And human groups were growing. More faces, more names to track, more people who might feed you or rob you. One psychologist, Robin Dunbar, put it flatly. Language is grooming without the touching. A voice reaches 5 people at once, across the fire, in the dark, and those first long conversations almost certainly gossip. Who did what? Who can be trusted? Who took more than their share? The thing your teacher begged you to stop doing may be the exact thing that built the species. Talking turned strangers into a tribe, and the moment it did, a second kind of human was listening in. For ages we told ourselves they could only grunt, the brutish cousin, all muscle, no mouth. We were wrong. In 1989, in a cave called Kabara, a team dug up a single Neanderthal throat bone, 60,000 years old. It is called the hyoid. It anchors the muscles you speak with. And when they measured it, it looked almost exactly like yours. Then the genetics arrived and ended the argument. There is a gene, FOXP2. Break it, and a person can barely wrap their mouth around words. Mice have a version of it. Songbirds have it. Even crocodiles have it. But the human version has a tiny tweak found nowhere else in the animal kingdom. A tweak for a fast, fine, controlled mouth. And when they tested Neanderthal bones, there it was. The exact same human tweak. Same gene, same wiring, same tool. They could almost certainly talk, and that tweak runs back further than either of us. Past the split, to a grandparent both species shared more than 400,000 years ago. The ability was loaded and waiting before we and they ever became two kinds of human. Sit with that for a second. 2 separate human species, in the same cold Europe, both able to speak, neither of them us. On some frozen night, one of them turned to another and said something real, and it landed. We will never hear a word of it. So go back to the fire. Back to you, your friend, and the mammoth he still cannot see. You never did find a word for it. What you had was quieter and far bigger. When you pointed, you were not just moving a finger. You were betting there was a mind behind his eyes, working like yours. Betting he could catch what you meant and know that you meant him to catch it. That is the whole trick. That is what a word truly is. Not a sound. A sound is easy. Birds have sounds. A word is you reaching into another skull with nothing but a puff of air. And trusting someone is in there to reach. 2 minds, meeting in the dark, agreeing that this tiny noise will stand in for that enormous thing out there. We got so good at it, we forgot we were doing it at all. You are doing it right now. These are just shapes on a screen, marks and sounds we agreed to share a very long time ago. And somehow a stranger you will never meet just placed a picture in your head. 2 people at a fire, and a mammoth nobody could name. It started around a real fire once. It never stopped. Thanks for watching. All the sources and studies used in this video can be found in the description below.